Hello lads, lassies, and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today we're going to be talking about what would have happened if Goku had the OmniTrix. This is the third part to this what if, and if you have not already seen the other two videos on this topic, I would greatly recommend you go check those out before coming back to this one if you enjoyed. There is a playlist linked in the description, like always, for your viewing ease and pleasure. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into the story of this what if. Goku, alongside the Saiyan offshoot of the Z Fighters, would land on Frieza Planet 1, before bringing absolute carnage to the globe, killing millions upon potential billions of Frieza Force soldiers that got in their way when attempting to go after the Galactic Emperor, seeing as if they were choosing to protect the man himself, then they probably deserved what was coming to them. So that's their way of rationalizing the practical genocide they commit. Goku would have the least amount of blood on his hands because he isn't working anything out here, but Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz, people who have been basically bullied by these evil scoundrels their entire lives, yeah, this is personal for them. All of that blood is on their hands and they do not plan on washing it off. But eventually they do arrive to the palace of Frieza himself, and after barging in by kicking the door down, Goku would stare down the person he has heard oh so much about. Although the hero of Earth had made a promise, he would not step in to fight Frieza unless it was absolutely necessary. He would leave it to the people who actually had personal beef with the guy. So, when Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz are by his side, Goku would take a step back, allowing for them to work things out. And, to be fair, the three of them were able to do pretty well against Frieza's first form, absolutely decimating him, and even the second form fell pretty easy. But once he got to his third form, they started having problems, and seeing as the tyrant believed Goku was a non-factor here, he just decided to show off a bit, going into his final form, giving them the courtesy of dying to a power that the universe has barely ever seen. Although, at this point, the three Saiyans were not able to keep up at all. They were getting trounced and Goku stepped in as he had promised. He started things off using the power of a Namekian, and although he was more powerful than the three Saiyans potentially combined, this still was not enough. So he did amp it up to Super Saiyan, which was incredibly formidable, but even that didn't seem to be enough. Nappa would create a power ball yet again like he did in the last part, allowing for now Vegeta and Raditz as well as himself to turn into Great Apes. And although I would love to say that Goku turns into a Golden Great Ape here, it just doesn't seem very likely. But the other three, now utilizing Ozaru alongside Super Saiyan Goku, are able to do some pretty serious damage to Frieza, until he shows off a larger fraction of his full power. With a combined power level of 20 million, they were able to push Frieza substantially, although it was only to about a sixth of his power, to where now the tyrant was able to match their collective strength. And since the way power scaling works in Dragon Ball dictates that ganging up doesn't really mean anything, they were still losing to a sixth of Frieza's full power. And since none of them have Kaioken, and even if they did, they couldn't stack it upon their current power, they're kind of screwed here. Frieza would show off a third of his power and absolutely decimate all of them combined. They weren't able to do anything against him, aside from, well, flee. But only one of them were able to get out, and that would be Goku. He was smaller than the rest, and probably a little more powerful. However, he did feel bad about it. He wasn't going to just let them sit there and die, but there wasn't anything he could do. The best he could hope for was to be able to get out of there and then use the Dragon Balls to bring them back later, but it still just felt wrong, like he was betraying them. However, later on, he would be able to bring them back as he would have fled back to Earth, where he would summon Shinron and return his three comrades back to the world of the living, and well, they're a little disappointed. Not in the fact that Goku left, no, that was a perfectly sound tactical decision, but at the fact that they had absolutely nothing they could do to Frieza. They only barely got away with their lives. What are they supposed to do now? No amount of training would seem to be able to overcome this wall, especially if Frieza now knows that they're out there, and would probably prepare himself. They wouldn't expect him to train because, well, it is Frieza we're talking about, but at the same time, they don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll get tens of times stronger while they're stuck just trying to reach 120 million. And even that seems like a Herculean task. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, although they would remember something from about midway through their training, that being the Galactic Patrol/Plumber Organization, a place that did offer to help if they needed it. So, with that thought in mind, they would boost up their ship yet again, before then heading off to the coordinates that the Galactic Patrol would have given them, before then arriving at Plumber HQ, and discussing with some of the higher-ups. It is a bit of a terrifying thought that they now know, at least somewhat, what the full power of the mighty Galactic Emperor Frieza is. However, they're not too sure how to deal with this. There are very few ways they could legitimately assist the Saiyans, seeing as their power is beyond anything that the Galactic Patrol or Plum Organization has. There's not like they could just pull out a warrior stronger than Goku out of their butt. That just wouldn't make sense. The best they could maybe do is Maris, but I doubt he was involved by this point. In fact, I can almost guarantee it, seeing as Jocko always seemed to go alone. And if Maris was around by the time of Resurrection F, I can see him stepping in to handle that situation. Although there is one thing they could do to assist, but it's a long shot, and it might not really do them much good, but it is a way to make Goku, well, get an upgrade. They would ask him if when he went up against Frieza, he tried to scan the Galactic Emperor, to which Goku would say, yeah, obviously. It was probably his first move, but it didn't work. He wasn't able to actually get any of Frieza's DNA or even scan it. In fact, the OmniTrix tried to, but it failed. For some reason, Goku just wasn't able to transform. And the leader of the plumbers, this being Ben, since I'm not sure who else would run the plumbers, would say that obviously Goku couldn't. They had already known this. They knew the OmniTrix had limits. So they would bring him to the Galactic Patrol prisoner base, where they would then show him around before bringing him to a certain level of their prison. They would lead him to one of the largest areas in their entire facility, which, before opening the door, they would take multiple precautions to make sure the person inside couldn't get out. After opening the door and stepping in and talking to the person inside, Goku would be dumbstruck. It looks like him. It's freaky. This guy looks exactly like Goku, except with a slightly darker complexion and obviously different clothes, wearing the same prisoner jumpsuit that all of the other Galactic Patrol inmates would be wearing. But what's weirder is the fact that he has an OmniTrix, except instead of having the same glowing green effect, his was blood red. It was honestly a bit creepy, but Ben would explain. A couple of years ago, they had found a wanted criminal with one of the most powerful and dangerous weapons in the universe. So, obviously, they brought him in. It took a while and was not easy, but eventually they were able to get him restrained. Oh, by the way, I've been calling Max Ben this entire time, because Max is the grandpa character and Ben's the main character. I just got the two names confused. Hope I didn't trip anybody up too much, but I'm not re-recording that. To a point, Goku believes this to be a power move, saying that they were able to bring in this guy so they could do the same with Goku, although Max would elaborate, explaining that they brought him down here to show that the OmniTrix does have limits, as when they first brought this guy in, they tried to have him scan one of the most powerful inmates in the entire facility, the reason they even built the prison in the first place, but they just couldn't. For some reason, this guy's OmniTrix failed to be able to scan the guy. Well, it was able to scan him, but it just rejected the DNA. Now, they weren't sure why this was, but they hypothesized it was because even the OmniTrix had limits, at least in its current form. See, ever since they've had this guy in here, they've been theorizing about ways to upgrade the OmniTrix, get it to a point where it has no limits, evolve it past that. However, they couldn't, at least not right now, since it'd just be a waste of resources, since the only OmniTrix they know where is, well, on the wrist of one of their prisoners. But that's where Goku comes into play, seeing as they now have an OmniTrix they can study and upgrade. Originally, they have just been planning to wait out this guy's lifespan and wait for him to die of natural causes, but now they don't need to do that, since they have an OmniTrix right here. Now, Goku, although grateful, does have a question. Why not just cut the dude's arm off? At that point, they could just take the arm off right away. Well, not take the arm off, take the OmniTrix off the arm. That seems like a pretty simple solution. Why not just do that? And that would work, but there's some problems. When they're transformed, their arm is too tough to get through. And they did try this back when he first came here. But after getting him to de-transform so they could actually cut the arm off proper, they realized he's a kid. 10 when he first came in here, probably about 15, 16 right about now. And there's some obvious moral complications there. Especially when they were first doing it, there's nobody in their ranks that'd be willing to cut a kid's arm off. Mostly because that would probably result in the death of a child. Which obviously is not good morally. Well, no, I take part of that back. There are people here that would be okay with murdering a child, but at the same time, those people are either prisoners or people in their ranks that they would not trust enough to just, take the watch and leave after the job's done. Goku obviously understands this because, well, kid murder bad, but he does actually come up with an agreement between the Z Fighters and what we'll call the Universal Alliance, the Galactic Patrol plus Plumbers, which would state that the Universal Alliance is able to study the OmniTrix as much as they want, as well as enlist the help of the Z Fighters whenever they need, as long as Goku gets their help with the upgrade for the OmniTrix, as well as getting to bring Kevin home. Yes, this would be Kevin 11. See, he wants to bring him back to Earth, since the Saiyans have already reformed in only about a year there, and they were planet-destroying monsters. He doubts that Kevin was that bad, and he also thinks that he'll be able to reform. He's just a kid after all, and it'd be nice to have somebody else with the same tool as him, the OmniTrix. So, the Universal Alliance would agree. These are fair terms, and they'd like to have this prisoner off of their plate. Then, after a couple of hours, Kevin would have his restraints taken off and be properly unshackled. Now, immediately he would go to attack Max, since, well, this is the guy who's kept him locked up for like 5 years. But Goku would step in the way, turning into a Super Saiyan and stopping Kevin from being able to lash out at one of his allies. Now, Kevin isn't scared by this, but rather impressed, thinking it's awesome and saying that, "You've definitely got to teach me how to do that." And for the next 2 weeks, the Saiyans would be training alongside Goku and Kevin, who would be spending more and more time attempting to show each other the benefits of each other's OmniTrix. Whereas Kevin's is capable of mashing 2 alien species together, Goku's allows for 100 years of evolution, both definitely having their perks, but Kevin's just appearing a bit cooler. Now, I don't know if this is actually canon to Ben 10, or if there even is a canon to Ben 10, but I vaguely recall Kevin being able to mash alien species together, and I think this is all just really cool. So it's my story, I'll do what I want, I hope you guys enjoy. Then, when the OmniTrix are upgraded, Goku would now be able to fully become whatever alien he's transforming into. So it's not really a transformation and more of just a swap into whatever species, but incredibly advanced. And for Kevin, he would be able to mash 3 species together rather than just 2. Meaning, rather than just being able to make Diamond Head plus Heat Blast, he'd be able to have Cannon Bolt, Forearms, and Heat Blast all in one to create, frankly, an abomination, but it'd be really sick. But above all else, they're now able to scan any species possible, but they wouldn't have Kevin scan Moreau, seeing as they're not too stressed out about not being able to kill him. It is definitely something on their mind, but they don't want to give Kevin that much power since, well, he's still sort of an oddity to them. They don't want him to go off the handles, and they don't think that he's genuinely reformed. So instead, they just decide to forbid him from going and scanning any aliens in the prison. Goku would actually be offered, but he would refuse since if Kevin's not able to, he doesn't want to have an unfair advantage over his rival and friend. Well, no friend, since they haven't known each other long, but they've actually gotten a pretty incredible bond pretty quickly. Although, when they finally bring the fight to Frieza once more, they see him accompanied by his father. A truly terrifying sight, although not one that was unpredicted. Vegeta had actually expected for this to happen, but it's not like they don't have their own form of reinforcements. They have the entire Universal Alliance behind them, and with the help of some of their higher-ups as well as the entire army, they were able to wage war on Frieza, and pretty effectively, might I add. All of his soldiers would be gone in a couple of moments. Even the Ginyu Force stands no chance against the Universal Alliance, and Goku, the rest of the Saiyans, and Kevin together would take on Frieza. Even with King Cold next to him, when Goku and Kevin scan the father-son duo, they would be able to transform into incredibly powerful aliens. Now, it's not like they would have an advanced advantage over these two since they were both mutants, but their race alone allowed for Goku and Kevin to get a major increase in power. Kevin would create a mix of Frost Demon, Diamond Head, as well as Brainiac, seeing as he doesn't have the same level of battle IQ that Goku does. But with Brainiac's intelligence, he would be able to devise plans as well as strategies in the middle of battle like it was nothing, being able to respond faster than anything because he was just able to process information as well as battle tactics and what's going on in front of him way faster than with any other alien or his regular vision. Now, the reason for Frost Demon is pretty obvious. It meant he had enough firepower to pack a punch against literally anything that King Cold threw at him. And for Diamond Head, it meant his skin was so tough that little attacks that King Cold would throw would actually deal any damage at all. This means that he can pretty confidently take on the father of Frieza, and Goku is having an almost easier time with Frieza himself. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not easy for either of them, but comparatively to how it was before, yeah, this is pretty easy. And seeing as Goku can utilize Frost Demon at the beginning of the fight to get a major boost in potential, getting exponentially stronger the more and more the fight goes on, overall in fact, meaning other aliens are more powerful, and eventually he can transform back into a Saiyan to get an overall higher attack power to then finish off Frieza in Super Saiyan 2? Yeah, it's easier than it would have been otherwise, but it's not super easy all things considered. But as Kevin brutally stabs Cold through the chest with his spiked hand, Goku would be near to finishing off Frieza, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't properly kill him, not because he's sparing him or anything, but rather because he had promised somebody else the killing blow. Vegeta, the person whose father was murdered in front of him, the person who has spent years of subjugation under Frieza's rule. If anybody deserves the killing blow, it's him. Now, Goku doesn't love killing here, but he understands it's a necessary evil, and he's not going to bloody his own hands when somebody else deserves the final blow. Vegeta would step up to the drained and defeated Frieza, pointing his hand out and saying,
"You've had this coming for a long time, Frieza,"
before shouting,
"Big Bang Attack!"
finally ending off the life of the Galactic Tyrant, once and for all. And that, my friends, is where we're going to be ending this video off for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this, as I certainly enjoyed making it, and if you could, please like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit the notification bell, that way you're notified whenever I release any new videos. That would be very much appreciated. This is, always has been, and always will be the Irishman. Talk to you later. Bye.